So today's video is going to be a fairly short video, but it's going to be an important one, and it's one in which we're going to talk about conflicts. And I know that most of you know what a conflict is, but I want to make sure that you understand the terminology so that when you have a quiz, which is going to be tomorrow, I believe. Let me check my board. Yes, the quiz is tomorrow, and you will be able to answer the questions tomorrow if you listen to this video on conflict. So let's start with simple, internal versus external conflict. An internal conflict is something that happens within a person, within you, within a character. So it could be you're trying to make a decision about something and you're conflicted on what choice you should make. If you have an external conflict, then you have an issue, or the character has an issue with somebody else or something else. And what I mean by something else is it could be a conflict against a storm. You versus the thunderstorm that's pounding on your head as you're trying to get from your car to the supermarket without falling. It could be a conflict that has to do with another person. So it could be a fight that you're having with somebody else, or the character of a story is having with somebody else. So internal is within. You're trying to make a decision. Should I or shouldn't I do this? How should I feel about this? Why is this bothering me? How do I get over this issue? That's an internal conflict. Okay, if a character is having an external conflict, then they're having an issue with something outside of themselves. Whether that's an issue with, it's like you're reading a mythological story, in ancient Greek mythological stories, so it could be a character versus one of the mythological gods. It could be a character versus another character. It could be a character versus something in nature. Things like that. A car chasing them down. That would be an external conflict. Let's look at two examples. So an example for I think the first one is an internal conflict. It would be if you're trying to decide whether to work on your narrative for an English class or go see a movie with your friends. And you're trying to weigh which one you should do. The narrative's due tomorrow, but this movie and going with my friends would be so much more fun. Which one should I do? Of course, you would choose the narrative because you're all really good students. The other one is an external example. If you look at the bottom of that PowerPoint slide, it's like if you were getting in an argument with one of your siblings, if you have a sibling, or a friend, or a guardian, or a parent, or any other person. So my example is if you were fighting with one of your siblings of who gets to sit in the front seat of the car, that would be an external conflict. All right, so here we go. The problem or struggle in a story that triggers the action, you have to have conflicts in order for it to be a story, or it would just be like an essay on something. So in order for there to be a plot, in order for there to be a story, a beginning, middle, and end, there have to be conflicts. That could be person versus person. One character in a story has a problem with one or more of the other characters in the story. Or in the movie, like Mean Girls, if you've ever seen that movie. Could be person versus society. A character has a problem with some element of society, like the school or the law, the accepted way of doing things, and so on. If you've ever seen the movie The Outsiders or read the book, that's like the class of characters in The Outsiders, Ponyboy and his friends, versus how society treats them. So you've got maybe the wealthy versus the not wealthy in society. So that would be person versus society. Person versus self, we've kind of already discussed because it's internal conflict. Character has a problem deciding what to do in a certain situation. There are two more. A person versus nature, we've already discussed also. In the movie The Perfect Storm, it's men on a boat fighting a storm while they're on a boat. It could be going against a snowstorm, an avalanche, the bitter cold, or any element of nature. And then person versus fate. A character must battle what seems to be an uncontrollable problem. We see that in sci-fi and fantasy stories. Whenever the conflict is a strange or unbelievable coincidence, it can be attributed to fate, like in the movie Signs, like in movies where you have aliens, like in movies like Stigmata, where you're dealing with like the demons, things like that. Okay, so tomorrow's quiz is going to cover conflict, and you'll need to know these terms. It's going to cover plot. It's going to cover, let me look at my board so I don't forget anything. characterization. So those are the main things that we've talked about: characterization, plot, conflict, theme. Okay, those 4 things will be on the quiz tomorrow. And that is it. I'll see you guys in class.